a single canal, a lifeline for global trade. But now, it's at a standstill. Cargo ships stranded, billions of dollars lost, and the world economy on edge. The Panama Canal, one of the most strategic waterways on the planet, has just been effectively shut down. But here's where things get complicated. This isn't just about water shortages or logistics nightmares. Whispers of geopolitical maneuvers and environmental crises are growing louder. And just when the world couldn't get more chaotic, Elon Musk steps in, sounding the alarm with a warning that has everyone talking. What does he know that we don't? And why should you be concerned? Join us as we unravel the truth behind this shutdown, Musk's shocking statements, and why experts are saying this could trigger a global crisis like never before. The Panama Canal Conundrum. Imagine one of the world's most vital trade arteries suddenly freezes. No ships slicing through the water, no containers of electronics or bananas gliding across oceans, and no business as usual to speak of. Instead, there's chaos, economic tremors, and a whole lot of finger-pointing. That's the exact drama surrounding the Panama Canal, a 110-year-old engineering masterpiece that connects the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans and keeps over 1 billion tons of goods flowing annually. But lately, this iconic waterway seems to have found itself in the middle of a geopolitical drama. So, what's the fuss? Why are people whispering, and some shouting about its potential closure or manipulation? First, let's give credit where it's due. The Panama Canal isn't just a trench filled with water, it's a marvel of human ingenuity. Since 1914, this man-made shortcut has saved ships from the grueling journey around South America's Cape Horn. It's not just a canal, it's a lifeline for global commerce. Think about it, every time you order something online that magically arrives on your doorstep weeks later, there's a good chance it passed through this very waterway. But where there's treasure, there's trouble. And lately, the Panama Canal has become a pawn in a larger game of geopolitical chess. On the 30th of January, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio went on record with some shocking claims. During an interview on The Megyn Kelly Show, Rubio confidently said he had zero doubt that China has a contingency plan to shut down the Panama Canal if tensions between Beijing and Washington ever boil over. Zero doubt? That's a bold statement coming from someone who probably hasn't been invited to Beijing's strategy meetings. According to Rubio, this isn't just about trade, it's about national security. The idea is that China, with its growing influence in Central America, could potentially weaponize the canal during a conflict with the US. And Washington? Well, they are not about to let that happen without a fight, or at least some strongly worded press releases. Of course, no modern geopolitical drama would be complete without a cameo from former President Donald Trump. In his January 20th inauguration speech, Trump accused Panama of breaking promises regarding the canal's final transfer in 1999. He also hinted, more like shouted, that Panama had effectively handed over control of the canal to China. Panama, for its part, has vehemently denied these claims. But Trump wasn't done. He vowed that the US would take back the canal. When? How? Details were scarce, classic Trump style, but the message was clear: America wasn't thrilled about the current state of affairs at this strategic choke point. To make matters worse, some rumors suggest geopolitical factors are at play. So could it be that the US is wielding its influence over Panama to disrupt China's growing dominance in international trade? And if that's the case, what does it mean for the global economy? The bigger picture. At its core, this isn't just about a canal, it's about power dynamics in an increasingly interconnected world. The US, long accustomed to being the dominant player in its own hemisphere, the US is watching China's rise with a mix of alarm and suspicion. Meanwhile, China is playing the long game, investing heavily in global infrastructure as part of its Belt and Road Initiative. The Panama Canal is just one piece of this sprawling puzzle. For context, let's rewind to 1999. The Panama Canal was officially handed over to Panama after nearly a century of US control, following the terms of the Torrijos-Carter treaties signed in 1977. The handover was hailed as a landmark moment for Panamanian sovereignty and diplomacy. Since then, Panama has managed the canal through the Panama Canal Authority, also known as ACP, an autonomous government agency that oversees its operations and maintenance. But here's where things get murky, and where Trump's allegations find some traction among his supporters. In recent years, China has indeed increased its economic footprint in Latin America, including investments in infrastructure projects near the canal zone. While this doesn't equate to Beijing controlling the canal itself, it's enough to fuel suspicions among those wary of China's growing influence on the global stage. But let's not forget the obvious: shutting down the canal would be catastrophic for everyone involved, China included. After all, Beijing relies on global trade just as much as Washington does, if not more. So while Rubio's concerns might make for dramatic headlines, it's hard to imagine anyone actually pulling the plug on this vital waterway without suffering massive economic blowback themselves. Now let's check out some facts, or at least the ones Panamanian officials are adamant about. The Panamanian government has been quick to swat away any claims that it has handed over control of the canal to Beijing. In their words, they are running this ship with fairness and neutrality for all shipping nations. President José Raúl Mulino made it crystal clear on January 30, the canal is, was, and will remain Panamanian. The canal belongs to Panama, he said, probably while resisting the urge to roll his eyes at the insinuations. But while Panama operates the canal itself, the ports at either end tell a slightly different story. One is managed by CK Hutchison, a publicly listed company from Hong Kong, which, let's face it, raises speculations given China's heavy influence in the territory. Meanwhile, other nearby ports are run by private companies from the United States, Singapore, and Taiwan. Rubio has been vocal about his concerns over the canal's operations, echoing sentiments that the current arrangement just can't continue. He stopped short of repeating former President Donald Trump's dramatic vow to retake the canal, but he did suggest that the U.S. needs to step in and sort things out. Rubio even went so far as to argue that the canal is already in the arms of the Chinese, a statement that probably had Panamanian officials clutching their pearls, or at least their coffee cups. He expressed hope for a resolution, though what that resolution looks like remains as murky as the canal's waters during rainy season. Now, before you start picturing Chinese flags flying over the Miraflores locks, let's take a step back and look at the broader picture. Critics have accused Trump of engaging in modern-day imperialism with his fiery rhetoric not just about the canal but also about Greenland. Such talk, critics argue, risks setting a dangerous precedent. If the US starts making territorial demands willy-nilly, what's to stop Russia from justifying its actions in Ukraine? Or China from making a move on self-rule Taiwan? It's like opening Pandora's geopolitical box, and nobody wants to deal with that mess. Of course, not everyone thinks Trump is serious about these grandiose claims. Some analysts speculate that his bluster is merely a negotiating tactic, a way to push other nations into making concessions without actually following through on any land grabs or canal retakings. Think of it as the art of the deal but with higher stakes and fewer real estate agents. So where does this leave us? For now, Panama insists it's holding the reins, or perhaps more aptly, the rudder, of its beloved canal. The US, meanwhile, seems torn between letting things be and jumping into yet another global drama. And China? Well, they are probably watching all this unfold with a sly smile and a bucket of popcorn. In the end, the Panama Canal remains what it has always been, a vital artery for international trade and a magnet for political intrigue. But what if the Panama Canal shuts down? The drying dilemma. Severe drought has hit Panama hard, reducing the water levels necessary for canal operations. The canal's operations rely on massive amounts of fresh water, 200 million liters per ship, to be exact, to lift vessels 26 meters, which is about 85.3 feet above sea level, through its locks. This water comes from two key lakes, but here's the thing, those lakes are running on empty. In 2019, the freshwater supply available for canal operations dropped to a measly 3 billion cubic meters, a far cry from the 5 billion, 250 million cubic meters needed. Blame it on climate change, El Niño, or just plain bad luck, but the situation is getting worse. Experts are waving red flags, warning that this water crisis could spell trouble not just for Panama but for global trade. Let's crunch some numbers to understand what's at stake. In the 2022 fiscal years alone, over 14,000 ships carrying 518 million tons of cargo passed through the canal, contributing to a mind-blowing amount of $2.5 billion to Panama's treasury. That's not just pocket change, it's a lifeline for the country's economy. Now imagine if those ships had to find alternative routes. Shipping companies might have to reroute through the Cape of Good Hope or other longer, more expensive paths. This means higher costs for goods, longer delivery times, and a whole lot of grumpy consumers wondering why their online orders are delayed. But there's more drama brewing on the home front. The Panama Canal doesn't just serve ships, it also supplies water to over half of Panama's 4.5 million residents. And here's where things get messy. With urban sprawl spreading like wildfire around Panama City, local populations are competing with the canal for dwindling water resources. Protests have already erupted in some areas due to water shortages, and experts fear this could escalate into full-blown water conflicts. Luz de Calzadilla, the general manager at Panama's Meteorology and Hydrology Institute, has added fuel to the fire by warning that El Niño will likely reduce rainfall even further in the latter half of the year. In case you're keeping score, that's bad news layered on top of worse news. So, what can be done to prevent this watery apocalypse? Long-term solutions are desperately needed to ensure the canal keeps chugging along, and no, crossing our fingers and hoping for rain doesn't count as a strategy. Options include investing in desalination plants, improving water conservation efforts, or even rethinking how the canal operates to make it less thirsty. But let's be real, these solutions take time and money, two things that are in short supply when you're already dealing with a crisis. In the meantime, shipping companies might start eyeing alternative routes more seriously, which could shift global trade dynamics in unexpected ways. The Panama Canal isn't just a canal, it's a lifeline for global trade. Panama's economy. A shutdown would send shockwaves far beyond Central America, affecting everything from shipping costs to international relations. While it's tempting to brush off environmental issues as someone else's problem, this crisis serves as a wake-up call. When nature decides to pull the plug, even the mightiest human-made marvels can grind to a halt. So here's hoping Panama finds a way to weather this storm, or rather, this drought, because when it comes to global trade, all roads, or waterways, lead back to this iconic canal. But what does Elon Musk have to say about this situation? Elon Musk's bold take. Elon Musk, the billionaire entrepreneur who seems to have his hands in everything from electric cars to space exploration to, well, posting memes, has jumped into yet another global debate. This time, it's about the Panama Canal, a waterway that's apparently causing more waves than just the ones made by passing ships. So why does Musk care? As the CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, and a guy who probably has a side hustle we don't even know about yet, Musk is no stranger to the delicate dance of global supply chains. He knows better than most that a hiccup in one part of the world can ripple across industries faster than a viral TikTok. And if the Panama Canal, one of the planet's most critical trade routes, faces disruptions, it's not just Panama that feels the pinch. Industries from automotive to tech could be left scrambling like someone who just realized their phone is at 1% battery. But Musk being Musk, he didn't just quietly ponder the issue over a cup of coffee. No, he took to X, formerly known as Twitter, and posted, 2025 is gonna be so lit. Cryptic? Yes. Insightful? Maybe. Provocative? Absolutely. The comment came shortly after former President Donald Trump announced his intention to reassert U.S. control over the canal, which he boldly renamed the United States Canal. Subtlety has never really been Trump's thing. Trump's remarks were made during a speech at AmericaFest in Arizona, where he managed to turn a discussion about a waterway into an international incident. He spoke about how Panama was charging exorbitant fees for canal access and hinted at growing Chinese influence over the passage. Has anyone ever heard of the Panama Canal? Trump asked the crowd, as if he were introducing them to a new Netflix series. Because we're being ripped off at the Panama Canal like we're being ripped off everywhere else. And because no Trump moment is complete without some visual flair, he later posted an image on Truth Social showing an American flag draped over a waterway with the caption, "Welcome to the United States Canal." Subtle as a sledgehammer, as always. But Trump didn't stop at name-calling and flag-waving. He went on to accuse Panama of failing to uphold the moral and legal principles of the 1977 treaties that handed control of the canal back to Panama after decades of U.S. oversight. Whether those treaties are actually being violated or this is just another episode of Trump versus the world remains to be seen, but his comments have certainly stirred up international tensions. So where does Musk fit into all this? Well, his cryptic comment could mean anything or nothing. Maybe he's predicting a geopolitical showdown over the canal. Maybe he's hinting at a new Tesla boat that can bypass canals altogether. Or maybe he's just trolling us all for fun, as he so often does. Whatever his intentions, Musk's involvement has added yet another layer of intrigue to an already complex issue. For now, the world waits to see what happens next in this high-stakes drama involving one of the most strategically important waterways on Earth. Will Trump's bold rhetoric lead to actual policy changes? Will Panama push back? And will Elon Musk ever explain what he meant by 2025 is gonna be so lit? When the Panama Canal grinds to a halt, the world doesn't just notice, it panics. With 40% of all U.S. container traffic, worth a staggering $270 billion annually, passing through its locks, the canal is the lifeblood of global trade. But what if this disruption isn't just a crisis? What if it's a wake-up call, a nudge toward innovation? Let's face it, global supply chains are like Jenga towers, impressive until one piece wobbles. The Panama Canal is one of those critical pieces. If it were to close or even slow down significantly, it could force companies to reconsider how they move goods across the world. And while that sounds terrifying, it might also be the catalyst for much-needed innovation. Musk has long been a vocal advocate for decentralized manufacturing and localized production. His vision? A world where products are made closer to where they are consumed, reducing dependency on far-flung supply chains that are vulnerable to everything from canal bottlenecks to container ship traffic jams. Could this be the moment his ideas gain traction on a larger scale? Maybe. Or maybe it's just another excuse for the tech billionaire to dream up something widely ambitious. But has Musk announced any grand plans to revolutionize shipping or maritime technology? Not exactly. But if history has taught us anything, it's that Musk doesn't need an invitation to dive into a new industry. Just ask legacy automakers, rocket scientists, or Twitter employees. While Musk hasn't directly dipped his toes into the shipping world yet, his companies are already tangentially involved in ways that could shake things up. Tesla's advancements in electric vehicles and renewable energy have obvious maritime applications. Imagine a fleet of electric cargo ships silently gliding across the oceans, powered by solar panels and batteries. SpaceX's Starlink internet service is already improving connectivity for ships, which could enhance everything from navigation to real-time logistics tracking. So no, there's no official Tesla ship or SpaceX cargo project on the horizon yet. But let's not count him out. This is the guy who built reusable rockets just because it seemed like a good idea. Back to the bigger picture, decentralized manufacturing isn't just a Muskian pipe dream, it's a concept that makes a lot of sense in today's unpredictable world. By producing goods closer to their end markets, companies can reduce shipping costs, cut down on emissions, and build more resilient operations. It's like having your pizza delivered from the shop down the street instead of 3 states away, faster, cheaper, and less likely to arrive cold. The Panama Canal crisis, or any major supply chain disruption, could accelerate this shift. Companies might start asking themselves, do we really need to ship widgets halfway around the world, or can we make them here? It's a question that could lead to some fascinating changes in how industries operate. Of course, change doesn't come easy, especially when it involves rethinking systems that have been in place for decades. Transitioning to decentralized manufacturing requires investment, infrastructure, and a willingness to embrace new technologies. But if there's one thing businesses hate more than spending money, it's losing money. And prolonged supply chain disruptions can be very expensive. So will more companies adopt decentralized manufacturing as a result of crises like this? Probably. Will it happen overnight? Definitely not. But as the old saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention, or in this case, reinvention. And as for Musk, well, Don't be surprised if he shows up with some wild idea involving autonomous ships powered by renewable energy and controlled via Starlink. After all, this is the man who put a car in space just because he could. The car was placed into an elliptical orbit around the Sun, reaching as far as the orbit of Mars. Then a mannequin named Starman was seated in the driver's seat, wearing a spacesuit. Leave it to Elon Musk to turn a crisis into an opportunity. Some speculate that Musk's companies, like Tesla and SpaceX, could play a role in reshaping global logistics. Could we see SpaceX's Starship transporting cargo across continents faster than traditional shipping routes? Or perhaps Tesla's innovations in AI and robotics could revolutionize the shipping industry. Imagine Elon Musk, the mastermind behind Tesla, SpaceX, and Starlink, trading rockets and electric cars for shipping containers, venturing into the container shipping industry, an old-school sector steeped in tradition but battling with modern headaches like climate regulations, erratic freight rates, and geopolitical curveballs. Might just be the perfect playground for Musk's brand of bold, boundary-pushing innovation. As the man himself once said, some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. And let's face it, disaster is kind of looming for shipping. Between its hefty carbon footprint and snail-paced adoption of tech, this industry is screaming for a shake-up. So, let's indulge in a little thought experiment. What would happen if Musk decided to steer this ship? First on Musk's to-do list: ditching those diesel-guzzling behemoths that currently dominate the seas. Then introduce zero-emission vessels powered by green hydrogen or cutting-edge electric systems. Think Tesla, but on water. These ships could pair seamlessly with renewable energy hubs at ports, solar panels, wind turbines, maybe even a splash of geothermal for good measure. Imagine docking at a port that looks less like a grimy industrial zone and more like a futuristic eco-oasis. Not only would this slash shipping's carbon emissions, but it would also make the people in the ship sleep a little easier at night. And let's be honest, a fleet of sleek, futuristic ships with zero tailpipe emissions. That's got Musk written all over it. Now, let's talk about captains, or rather, the lack of them. Musk might roll out self-navigating ships equipped with AI so advanced it could probably beat you at chess while plotting the most fuel-efficient route across the Pacific. These AI systems would optimize routes in real time, dodging everything from storms to port congestion with the precision of a Formula One driver on race day. And this is the best part: no more human error. No more accidental groundings or miscalculations that leave ships stuck in canals. These fleets could adapt instantly to disruptions, ensuring goods arrive faster and cheaper. Plus, who doesn't love the idea of a ship that can think for itself? If there's one thing Musk hates, it's inefficiency, and fragmented communication systems are inefficiency incarnate. So this is where Starlink, Musk's satellite internet brainchild, enters the picture. By equipping vessels with Starlink connectivity, global shipping would finally say goodbye to patchy signals and hello to seamless communication. There will be real-time tracking of every container on every ship, accurate ETAs down to the minute, and customer transparency so good it feels like magic. Lost containers? That will be a thing of the past. Confusion over delivery times? All avoided. With Starlink, the entire supply chain becomes a well-oiled machine, or rather, a well-connected one. But why stop at the ocean? Musk isn't exactly known for half measures. He'd likely revolutionize intermodal logistics, the process of moving goods between ships, trucks, and trains, with high-speed, low-energy connections between ports and inland hubs. Think Hyperloop-inspired cargo systems zipping goods across land at lightning speed while consuming minimal energy. Imagine cutting days off delivery times and slashing costs in the process. Ports would no longer be bottlenecks but streamlined gateways to global commerce. Your online shopping addiction just got a whole lot faster and greener. If Musk ever decides to go into the shipping industry, it would transform into something unrecognizable. Sustainability wouldn't just be an afterthought, it would be the foundation. Efficiency wouldn't be a goal, it would be a given. And innovation wouldn't be a buzzword, it would be the norm. Sure, it sounds ambitious, borderline sci-fi even, but isn't that Musk's whole vibe? Whether he's sending Teslas into space or building tunnels under cities, he doesn't do small ideas. So why not reimagine an industry that touches virtually every corner of our lives? While there's no indication that Elon Musk is eyeing the container shipping industry, it's fun to dream about what could happen if he did. So here's to hoping Musk gets bored of rockets someday and decides to dive into shipping. After all, who wouldn't want to live in a world where even your Amazon package arrives with a side of sustainability and sci-fi coolness? So, what's next? How do we keep this vital artery flowing without turning it into an international soap opera? Let's check out some solutions, some practical, some ambitious, and others just plain intriguing. First up, the drought. The Panama Canal Authority, also known as PCA, not one to sit idly by, has been rolling out water management strategies like a chef tossing ingredients into a stew. Chief among these are water recycling locks, which sound as futuristic as they are practical. These locks conserve precious water, ensuring the canal doesn't dry up faster than your houseplants when you forget to water them. Another idea is the Rio Indio Dam project. The idea is to create a shiny new reservoir to feed the canal during those pesky dry spells. Sounds great, right? Sadly, this project comes with a hefty price tag and a timeline that feels like it stretches into the next century. It's the kind of solution that screams long-term commitment, which is great if you're patient, but not so much if you're in a hurry. And then there's the wildcard, the multimodal dry canal project. Think of it as the canal's land-based cousin. This plan involves using existing roads, railways, and ports to move cargo across Panama, sidestepping the canal altogether during water shortages. It's innovative, sure, but also a bit like telling someone with a broken leg to just crawl instead of fixing the problem. Now, let's move to the political crisis, because what's a crisis without a little international intrigue? The US and Panama are eyeing China's growing influence in the region like two people watching someone suspiciously close to their plate of fries. The canal's neutrality and accessibility to all countries are non-negotiable, but ensuring that requires some serious diplomatic finesse. How do you solve this? Some experts are of the opinion that they talk it out. The US and Panama might need to sit down for some good old-fashioned diplomatic discussions, preferably over coffee or maybe something stronger, to address their concerns about China. The goal? Keep the canal neutral and drama-free. But diplomacy alone won't cut it. Transparency and cooperation are key buzzwords here. Panama could play mediator, working with both the US and China to ensure everyone's on the same page about how the canal operates and addressing any lurking security concerns. Think of it as couples therapy for nations, regular communication, mutual respect, and maybe even a shared calendar for scheduling check-ins. Addressing the Panama Canal crisis isn't just about fixing one problem. It's about juggling multiple flaming torches without setting yourself on fire. Tackling the drought requires technical ingenuity, while navigating the political turmoil demands diplomatic dexterity and international cooperation. What do you think? Is this cocktail of solutions enough to keep the Panama Canal afloat, both literally and figuratively? Or are we just rearranging deck chairs on a sinking ship?